We are live. Welcome to Seize Your Mind, the podcast about soccer, mental toughness, and life. I'm your host, Brandon Stone. Today's guest is Oscar Pareja. He is currently the head coach for Orlando FC in the MLS. Oscar, how are you today?
I'm good, Brandon. It's great to see you. It's great to see you with Agency also, and happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Good. I'm glad. Yes, for those who can't see and are just listening, I'm wearing my Colombia jersey today. Oscar's from Medellin. He played for the national team in Colombia. He played for several clubs in Colombia, including Independiente Medellin, Deportivo Cali. Then he came to the U.S., played New England Revolution, FC Dallas, and then started coaching FC Dallas as assistant, U17 United States team, uh, back to FC Dallas, Colorado Rapids, and then FC Dallas, Tijuana, Mexico, and now Orlando City. Oscar, how have you gotten to where you are now in your career? Walk me through the story.
Well, good question. Sometimes when we hear that information about what we have done through our lives, is incredible how fast the time goes. And it looks like it was yesterday when we started. So how we get here, I think it's simple. I say probably from the basic is through the passion and the love that I have for the game, and this is something that it was nurtured by my parents and family and my friends, and just loving the game, Brandon, just loving the game this much. I think that's what is the journey about.
Well, a lot of people love the game. But to be like at that level to where you've gotten, to be able to step it up and get to the professional level and be a truly like high performance coach and player, it takes something special. So tell me about what it is that's made you better than a lot of the people who also love the game but weren't able to get there.
And right, yeah. Listen, I think we all have different talents. When I was young, very young, I had the knowledge about what I was good at. Uh, as you said, just adding to the love and the passion that we have to carry within us. I knew that I was better than many others on playing the game. It was my nature to be engaged with the ball all the time in the streets and in Medellin. Uh, and after that, well, everything was progressing. You know, being with teams and participation now and the selective um, game where I was in the teams and national teams, and everything was evolving little by little, learning from the experiences too, from the coaches, from my dad especially, and just having the vision all the time that I wanted to play the game in the first division, and one time defend the national team jersey, and one day I thought it was possible to play overseas and somewhere else beside my country. I never thought much about coaching, to be honest. Um, but it was also a result of the involvement that I have with the youngsters in Dallas, and then the coaching career, it has been similar. You know, that has been little by little adding things and experiences.
Let's go back to your childhood in Medellin. So you started out playing in the streets. How old were you when you first started playing like organized
Right.
soccer?
Good question, Brandon, because that's when everything starts, and I try to capture some memories from back time, um, because I want to see what can I take from those moments and do it with the youngsters, you know. So basically, was playing in the streets. I had not even 10 yards street there. Um, and where we came every single day after school to play with my friends, and that's where I have this devotion for the game. Um, Playing in a neighborhood that was the middle class, where all the kids were dreaming to play the game. That's probably the very first memory that I have, and I was say 6, 7, and then at the age of 12, I was turning 13. Probably I started just playing organized games, on a team and being coached. Um, I started just being more structured and less happy, but more structured, and and then everything started being regulated already for the ruling and dictating what the coach wanted and all those things. But the real game was playing way before.
Was it mostly 2v2 that you started in the streets?
Right? Yeah. Well, anything, because sometimes the boys show with 12, sometimes 20, sometimes just 4, but everything was just depending of the amount of the friends that were at the moment. And as I say, man, it was not structured at all. It was not the same teams. It was not the same people. It was all different.
Just having fun.
It was just having fun. It was just having fun, and I think it's something that we'll have to remember in terms to the coaching, and see if sometimes with our players we can be less structured, and we can just let them have fun in the field. The secret is that obviously we need to guide them and we need to give them a structure and all those things. But when we were in the streets playing, the game organized itself. It was not commanded by anyone, especially. It was just the game dictating what it takes. And the kids in the street, what we felt was that the game was letting us know what we needed to do. It's a 5v5 here, we'll do 5v5, or maybe 6v5, or maybe the other team was very unbalanced, and then we let him play with 7, and then maybe the guy who played less, we put him in the goal, and then sometimes we play with a ball that it was made of plastic. Sometimes it was a gray ball. That sometimes it wasn't a good one. So that nobody dictates. Yeah.
Variables always changing then.
Always unbelievable. Yeah, that's encouragement as well for coaches now. Just bury it.
Yeah. Do you have back in those times, do you have like a favorite goal you remember, or a favorite moment that kind of sticks in your mind? It's like, that was one of my favorite childhood moments?
Right. I have a couple from a different eras. My first one, I think it was around 9. I was 9 years old, and we used to go play in the neighborhoods beside ours, and it was really muddy, the field that we were playing at, and then it was raining like crazy. So it was the water stayed in some places, but we kept playing all the time. But we all wet and muddy. It was a great day, and some of the boys give me a ball, and I chased it up, and then I found it with we call it chilena, and we landed in the water, and the boys came, and then we all mess in there. I remember well that moment, not just because the goal, but because when I came back home, I received from my mom, and because I get all dirty and all these things. I remember that moment just because my mom was punishing me because I get all dirty at home. And then during my career, I have goals that means a lot. My first goal as a professional, my first goal as an international defending Colombian national team.
Tell me about your first goal as a professional.
Yeah, and that was 1988. We were playing in Barranquilla. The team against we played was Sporting. Um, not nothing special. It's just a shot that I took out of the box, and actually some of the other their players deflected, and the ball went in. But that was my first goal. Or at least they gave it to me that one.
And then your first goal as a national player, you said that was an important one.
Well, and a special one that I had with the national team, we were playing in Manaus, Brazil, against a Brazilian national team that in that era was Rivaldo, Roberto Carlos, and all these guys. And we were playing in Manaus. The stadium was full, and I scored my first international with Colombia. It's a great memory also.
Was Tafarel in goal?
Pardon me?
Was Tafarel in goal for Brazil?
No. It was a different. That time it was a different one. I used to remember his name, but not at the moment. But it wasn't Tafarel.
And how was that? How did that goal happen? What was it
Well,
play-by-play?
Yeah, well, we were playing very well, and especially in the first half, we're having a lot of possession, and I was playing with Carlos, with El Pibe, Leonel Alvarez, and I had one of those chances just to share that process in that one game with them. I received the ball actually from Rubén Darío Hernandez, left winger. He was dribbling in the left, and he cut it inside, and I was coming from the middle. Very similar to my first goal as a professional. This one was better because I took when I trapped the ball, and I took one touch, and I extended, and then I hit it so well, and I put it just right there down in the corner of the goalkeeper's left. I remember very well now just because it was the national team goal, but I get the ball full and I put it back in there. So I remember that goal pretty well, yes.
How would you calm your nerves in a huge game like that? You're playing away from home against one of the biggest rivals of Colombia, Brazil.
Right.
How would you keep calm during what kind of things would you say to yourself?
Right. Well, Brandon, you know what? I have to tell you that once you are in this competition of in the first team, especially, but I would say also when you were young and playing with the younger national team process, or when you're competing, you're always nervous. You always I mean, you have the fear to lose, and you have to perform well. So you always have this responsibility on your shoulders. So I barely remember games or moments where I have not feel those nervous. And playing in Manaus against the national team, Brazilian, one of the best teams in the world, but also playing competitive games in my neighborhood. I always just bring me the same feelings. The good thing is that that probably a responsibility that we have on our shoulders and make us feel anxious and nervous and all those things. It never change. It's the same. I feel the same today when I go and coach in the competition, during the competition. It's pretty much the same feeling. I don't think it varies. This is what I mean. I don't think it varies that much. It's
Interesting.
The same feeling,
Yeah. I would suggest that helps bring you more into the moment, into the present moment.
Right. It's in the present, just being present in the moment. You're right. Yeah, it's just being there in the moment where you know that you have to perform, you have to do the right things, and you have been prepared the things to that moment, and you had been in this game against Brazil, for example. I thought about, I dream about this moment. Now I'm here, and but just live in the moment, because I thought the same when I played my first professional game, but I have the same feeling when I play with my local team, and when the games were organized as well, and on and on. When I play in Major League Soccer, my first year as well, just kind of the same. Yes.
What was the biggest difference in coming to the MLS from playing back in Colombia?
Biggest difference in that moment, 1998, was that it was more regulations here that weren't in Colombia at the time. For example, that if you tie the games, you go to the shootouts. Um, there was as well aspects on the game, more physical, having a games with more speed. Probably here, less quality, less technique, less combinations, but more dynamic. Um, those characteristics were remarkable in that moment. I think the league has grown this much that I may say that the league now is showing that has probably the same, or in some cases more technique, and the collective game is being played very well right now here, without saying that we're less dynamic. So and in Colombia, obviously you find uh, players there with incredible skills, special players, and it's more difficult to have in other countries. It's normal, knowing that everything is very, very similar, because the globalization is changing too. But I would point that out, yes.
What would you say was the biggest challenge? Was it the physicality? You being someone who likes to, have skill in the midfield.
Right. Yeah. Also, because when I came to the league, I was playing with well, Colombia, not much different to, I was small, tiny. Uh, when I came here to Major League Soccer, it was even more. Um, and so, about that physical difference in the physicality, or having players taller and stronger, but it did not affect my game at all. I just use it as a way for me to use the technique and the skills that I was gifted. Um, just use it for the game, because the game is pretty much what it is. Somebody who can think, somebody who can have the technique to use the ball, the space, and the time. Um, Even though obviously the physical part of the game, it plays a role, yes, for sure.
What do you think helped you be so good at having that vision that you're talking about, knowing the spaces and the speed? As a midfielder, you definitely had those qualities. What do you think helped you develop those?
I think the street, yeah, indeed. The playing in the street, I had to be aware of many other things other than the ball and the rivals. We needed to be conscious about the size of the street, and that was hilly. It was not plain. The My neighbors were upset because I couldn't let the ball touch their garden, and then I needed to wait for the car to pass by when it comes, and I needed to be aware of probably falling on the cement, because that will hurt, and being aware of the differences on my teammates. Every day was different, and recognizing my teammates, because we didn't have beeps and colors. We were all the same. I needed to recognize them because I had to. Um, all those things playing a role in the game, and you still have to maneuver the ball and create a good decision with the ball. Those things make excel that part that you mentioned, Brandon. I think all those things were important.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, and then what got you started looking into coaching?
Mm. Well, when probably 3 years before I retired on 2005, I started thinking about starting to coach youth. Had passion for the youngsters. I wanted to be involved, but I was not so sure that I wanted to spend too much time on coaching. But at the time, while was doing my transition to the other life, I had this vision of working with youth. That's when everything started just going. Yes.
So did you start taking classes?
Mhm.
Did you have a mentor?
Right. I took my national youth license first. I started attending a couple seminars. I started attending some trainings for the first teams in Colombia with asking friends, coaches, um, and trying to educate myself into how can I express what I needed in the field with exercising and just seeing the game from a different view. um, those things were as well progressing. It's something that evolves with the time. But right away, I took my license in Dallas and in Colombia, a couple seminars too, and on and on. You know, after that, we just started doing what we needed to do. Just take our lay license, our international licenses, and all those things.
And then how did you find your first official gig? Like, did you start as a? I know some people start as like a volunteer and then they get hired on, or did you come straight in? What was the process of like?
And
Because
by
you're
Yeah, well, my coach in Dallas, Dave Deere, which is a great friend for me still. Uh, Coach was managing a club in in uh, in Dallas. The name of the club was ASG, and he was directing the club, and the club had like 15 teams, different ages. He wanted me to do some skills for them first, and after that, he offered me to coach the '94 white ASG team, and that was my first experience as a head coach, coaching these girls. It was unbelievable, fantastic, just to know how to see the game from the coaching seat. And the girls taught me a bunch of stuff too, and I do remember them with special love, because that process was very fun. Yeah.
is it hard to keep yourself from going out on the field and try and score a goal yourself as a coach?
I know. Yes. Still, you think that uh, obviously, especially when you just retire, that you think that you can play and you can teach them all the skills, and sometimes even show, that you can, and all those things. Little by little, the game is pushing you out of the game and telling you that you're not the player, that you're the coach. And with the years, we understand that we're not players anymore. But it takes a few years, though, and for some coaches, many more years.
It's a gradual, slow process. Then
Yeah, it is a gradual process. Yeah, when you start feeling that you're not playing, but it's not an easy step at all.
okay, then fast forward. Now we're here at Orlando. Give me like a state of the union. I know MLS just released that they're gonna have a tournament in Orlando. Um, what's preparation been like up to now, and is it anything gonna change now that that news is out?
Right. Yeah, we have been following the protocols with the league. First phase was individual, and then second phase trying with small groups. We're just waiting to finish our second phase and train them all, train the full training, the whole team training. We still a couple days out of that, but the tournament has been announced already. We all excited with this opportunity to compete again. For us, it's better that it is here in Orlando, so we don't need to travel. But it's good to know as well that the competition is going to be very level. The fact that we all be in the same place and there is not fans at all in the same fields. But we're excited, Brandon, just to have this opportunity to compete again. We can't wait.
What do you think you've used the downtime to get better at? I'm sure you've not just sat twiddling your thumbs. What did you use that time to improve on?
Right. Yeah, we'll have done a bunch of stuff around the team, trying to get the players more. Um, we have had a lot of contact here with this virtual communication. Um, Obviously, have time to review what you have done. That there is not too much time when you are in competition time. Trying to see games from the past, trying to see methodologies, review what you have done, what you're doing, and compare and reinvent and and vary here and foresee how the things can be. I see a lot of retro games. Um, I read a lot too, and basically just keep up with the team, you know. So basically that, Brandon. The most remarkable thing is that I had the opportunity to review the whole season last year, where I was in Mexico. I wasn't very aware of how was the league here, so I had the chance to see many games and try to see the teams, players that I don't know.
Good. Tell me about I know when they first brought you on, there was an interview where I think it was the president of the club or general manager of the club was saying like, this coach has XYZ properties, this coach has ABC properties, but you have all of them. Do you remember that interview? It's up on YouTube. It's like 6 months ago.
Uh,
What
yeah.
are some of your values that you brought to the club, and how have you help spread those to the culture in the club?
It's good. It's difficult sometimes about ourselves, random, but um, at first that those comments make us feel proud about what we have done. But first thing that I want to say that is just make me special is the people that work with me. Uh, they are fantastic friends and fantastic coaches, and that I have the fortune to work with. It's a group of staff that I thank God every day to have them. Jose Maria Bazan, Fabian Bazan, and now we incorporate two more. These guys make me look good, and obviously, well, the experiences that the life and the game has given us, it helps. I'm trying to see all the time a way to um, uh, find the solutions and find answers and try to get better. And I have said this from my time in Dallas. We trying all the time to find a way to get the things done, and probably that perseverance has been part of my life during my career, the way I grew up and the way my parents raised me, and that helps. That helps. There's a lot of things to get better though, but probably those things I would remark.
They're always striving to find solutions and to better the process.
Yes, it's something that I was inspired from my parents, and my generation. Uh, I grew up in the city in the times where everything was very difficult, dark, and not necessarily financially, but with the political problems and all these things that we suffer. But just made us be very strong and perseverant and I thought it just form our character. And I always think that is a way to do the things right. I always think that you have to find that way to do it. Instead just sitting on making excuses. I always think that God chose you and give you the opportunity to find a way. And I think you experience yourself. That's life. You know, we find our ways to find our roads. And
Yeah, that's a very important mindset to have. Is, you know, knowing that believing that there is a way, there is a solution. Because if you don't, just like you said, you're just going to make excuses, and it's not going to get solved.
right, right. You have two choices. First, that think that the things cannot be done, and probably life can show you enough facts and evidence that the things cannot be done. And there's an election. If you think that life is right, or you think that the life may be wrong, and maybe a way to do it in a different manner, and I'd rather just go that direction.
So there's always a fork in the road, and you're picking
It's always,
left or right.
it's always, Brandon. It's always a way to do things. It doesn't necessarily means that you will achieve the objectives. It's not a necessary um, perfect. It's not perfect. Sometimes you hit the wall again, and you try to find a way somewhere else, and you will hit the wall again, and then sometimes it doesn't come, and sometimes you need to wait. Sometimes they come. Many times they come, but my responsibility is always show first myself and my family and my players and my friends that you have to find a way to do it. It's better to think like that, I think.
Tell me more about your team. You said the reason why you look so good is all the people around you. How have you built that, and how do you foster leadership within the players too?
I had the opportunity to work with Jose Maria when I was in Dallas. Before I met him before I retired, though, and I saw him working with the youth in Dallas and doing a terrific job with the boys. And I really admire his dedication and his knowledge of the game. So with Jose, when I retired, we met one day, and I told him at once that I would like to work with him on helping the youth. Yeah, and I took this road, as I told you, coaching with Coach Dave Deere, but Josema was close to me, and then we were sharing some concepts and ways to do things. And one day when I received the opportunity to coach in the academy in Dallas, I brought him with me, and we started this process. So he's all the time working in the same process that I has been with. And his brother, Fabian Bazan, I know him 6 years ago. Fabian was working with Venezuelan national team in a very successful process with Coach Farias. And Fabi was, they were not working together that year, and have the opportunity to bring him to Dallas, and he accepted. And since that moment, we start our career together. Yes, I have today. I found Cesar Baena. Since I couldn't keep working with Drew more, excuse me, with Drew Kitchen. I always remember Drew more for some reason. Drew Kitchen worked with me in Dallas, but we couldn't move ahead with him. So I'm working with Cesar Baena. And then in Tijuana last year, I met one of the youth coaches, Diego Torres, Mexican. And we had a lot of empathy with the methodology and the way we do things. And we had the fortune to bring him here to this process. So that's my stuff.
And then in terms of your players, how do you help them grow, not just tactically, but how do you help them grow mentally?
Yeah, well, first, our responsibility is to let them know what we want, express clearly what is our game model, convince them to know and recognize that that's the best way for us to do it, or at least make them recognize that that's the way that we're going to go. And best way to convince them and make them go that direction is get a good training. I think it's a big challenge for us as a coaches every day, trying to simulate the game that we want to play, and what are those sequences and actions that we would like to inspire our players to be at on the games. Create a culture within the trainings where the players feel that they are growing, that they are being successful, that they are important. All those things are for me, first a privilege, but also the best way for me to get close to the players and make them be a good team, which is at once a tough task. It's not easy, but that's our methodology. And now, as a human beings, Brandon, I think is probably the most important job. When we value the player just because they have their feet to play and that's it, is it's not gonna work. When we see it as an integral human being that has challenges, that has context, that has history, that has a background, that has dreams, that have weaknesses, but at the same time has some great possibilities to flourish. And then you see him whole, and you see that player as a whole, and then treat him like that, and you have a chance to succeed.
Yeah, so get the big picture, see who they are, not just as like a left back, but who they are as a person, and
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's important. That's important. The coaches that I remember the most are the ones who, despite doing the job that they need to do as a preparing a soccer player, I remember a lot the ones that were worried about preparing a human being for life. That impact my life.
That seems to be a common thread between a lot of the higher tier coaches, is that they focus on the human first and then soccer second.
Right. My experiences as a player, uh, I remember those moments and the times and the special times that just get in my memory and are part of the way I am. And I say, well, it works for me. Well, it may work for somebody else that way. So I try to apply the things that work for me, and I remember, and trying to improve them. But despite of the change of the generations and the methodologies and everything, I'd say, and it's the things that doesn't change. The humans, people who wants to feel important, people who wants to feel that they have value, the respect, um, the encouragement and the discipline and all those things, all together and in the process.
How do you help your players if, let's say, one of them's dealing with low confidence or something like that? Have you had a situation like that where you said a word or two that you saw a difference?
Right. It's uh, sometimes the best way to help them is to make them visualize what they can be, and instead us just correcting them and showing them what they don't do good and their weaknesses. Um, for me, uh, in this case, especially with players who has not a great self-confidence, is and really show them all what they can do. And sometimes they don't see it. You have to provide that to them, and 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 it's not an easy job because you have to be real, and it's not creating things mm, that are not real for them because they may recognize that you are lying to them. But when you are being objective with them and showing them all the possibilities that they can create for themselves, and that confidence immediately is different. The confidence is different, and that I felt, and that's the way that I choose to coach to the players, just looking looking at them with a different eyes. It's not what they are right now; it's what they can be, and that's not an easy. It's not an easy way to do it.
So basically, showing them instead of focusing on, oh, do this better, do this better, do this better, it's you're good at this, 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 and if you continue this path, you'll get better at this, this, and this.
Exactly. Yeah, there is a good example about a seed. When the seed come out of the tree, and you pick it from the ground, and then what do you think that seed needs to become a big tree? Uh, Sometimes we think that we have to inject something to the seed. No, the seed has everything in it, right? It's in there. Sometimes as a coaches, we forced and we want to get in there and change things. No, the players already have those things. They're natural. All what you have to do is just to provide a good environment for them. And with the analogy of the seed, you need to plant it into a fertile uh, um, uh, place, soil. You have to put them into a good soil so it will grow up and it will become a big tree. That little seed is a big tree. Players are similar. And I received this from one of the guys that I follow, or he mentored me in terms to the coaching. And I think he's so right. We have the power to show the players how big they can grow because they don't know. Instead, just choose the way to try to inject him the way I am and the way I want it to be. No, it's just put him in a place where they can grow and show them that they can be a big tree. And that's a big responsibility, and it's not an easy job either.
That's a beautiful analogy, and I know I'm never going to forget that analogy. I can use that in my personal life, and I'm sure all of my listeners will be able to too. It's really great.
Right, it's true, Radhan. As you said, we can use it in any way in our lives. How about if we see people like that? How about if you get a seed and you don't see it as a small seed, but you see it as a big tree, because it really is a big tree.
Wow.
And this is not an illusion, it's the reality. It is, because the big trees were a seed like that. And you choose if you see it as a small seed or you choose to see it as a big tree, because it is both. And players are like that. Players, you can see him as a kid who cannot evolve. You can see him as a kid who cannot pass the ball. You can see him as a kid who cannot dribble. You can see him as a kid who cannot make good decisions. You can see him as a winger who cannot cross the ball. You can see him just as a seed, a small seed. Or you can see him as a big tree. Well, if you see him as a big tree, you better just get in your bike and just trying to get the soil ready, because he can be a big tree. Now the soil and the atmosphere and the environment, you can help on.
You have control over that.
You control that. You control that. And guess what? Our players depend on how good is the soil. And that's the big responsibility that we have as a player, as the coaches, because we are the soil. And we are part of the soil. We have to add more elements so he can grow. But if my soil is rocky, and I don't fertilize him, and I don't show him how good he can be, but instead I'm just mashing him and step on him, he's not gonna grow. And that happened to many of us in many areas. So I love as well the analogy. I think is good. So how we look at the people.
And it's almost like if you do see people as big trees and you convince them that they were a big tree, that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Correct. Because they would not escape away from that. They will be a big tree because they can see it. And how they see it, because you picture them that, because they can do that, and then you are helping them, and you fertilize them in the morning, and then when somebody come and smash us because we have a frustrating day, and because we are not doing a good job, and because the world show us that we're not good enough, and somebody step on us mentally, and then you show them that tomorrow can rain and we can flourish again and we can keep growing, and that's going to make us stronger. And then they start seeing that they're better, they feel stronger, and they can start visualizing really that they can be a big tree indeed. But it's not easy for sure.
I love it. I wish you great success with your soil with the rest of this season, and that your forest can prosper.
It looks perfect. It's great. We need a lot of labor. We need to support the rain and the sun and the heat and snow. We have to, just to keep with the analogy, that it seems and it sounds very romantic or philosophical, but I think it's perfect. I'm here ready with my boots on and ready to work, or keep working. I have a group of seats that can become 3 2, and hopefully we can make it happen. And winning and losing is part of our job, but at the end of the day, if some of those guys remember this season as a part of their growing as a treats in a different manner, we'll just be as content.
I love it. I love it. Oscar, thank you so much for talking to me on here, for being on my show. I know I learned a lot from you. I'm going to remember this analogy in my personal life and everything else I do. And my mindset's already changed just thinking about me as a big tree. So I know it's helped me.
Thank you. it helped me to every day. So I'm happy to participate in your program. Thanks for the invitation, and I wish you all the best.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Done.